Hello, and thank you for joining us on What Now. I am Precious Amayo. Let's begin in the United States, where President Trump has signed a federal government spending bill, and that's less than 2 hours after the House of Representatives passed it, bringing an end to the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The U.S. House Speaker, Mike Johnson, has instructed lawmakers to return to Washington after keeping the chamber out of session for more than 50 days. The new spending bill, which extends federal funding until January 30th, was backed by a margin of 222 to 209 in the Republican majority House. It was approved by the Senate earlier this week after 7 Democrats and 1 independent agreed to support it. Trump's signature brings to an end a 43-day shutdown that began on October the 1st, during which all but essential government services had ground to a halt. Federal workers would now return to their jobs as early as Thursday, but it is unclear how quickly full government services and operations will resume. About 670,000 civil servants were fired during the closure, while a similar number worked without compensation, but will now receive back pay. Now, President Manchester Trade, Stevie Landy, joins me from the United States to speak more on this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Can you repeat? It wasn't clear.
Mr. Landy, I just want to be sure that you can hear me.
I hear you now perfectly, and I enjoy looking at you even more.
Thank you very much for joining us. All right, let's talk about what this means. I mean, they have now ended the longest shutdown in the U.S., 43 days. What does this mean, and how long spending is now guaranteed?
Well, I saw from the premise that people will forget the shutdown, that it took place, it's over, it was headlines. What matters in the United States, as far as the future goes, is the next midterm election where we will select a Congress, both the Senate and a House, 1/3 of the House, 1/3 of the Senate, the whole House. And at that point, either Mr. Trump and the Republican parties will maintain complete control of the U.S. government or not. That takes place next November. What happened until they opened the government was an incident. Uncomfortable. People didn't get their checks immediately. They're going to get them now and so on. A slowdown of the legislative process and so on. But what mattered is that it's over now. No one will remember the shutdown when they get to vote in November. So what I tell my friends are, what you have to follow is what happens after the shutdown. Mr. Trump is at his lowest level of popularity, I think, ever since he's been in office. He's at 37%, which is a low figure, and so on. The question is, over the next 6 8 months, will he go up in popularity? Congress will get back on session. According to the minority leader, the Democratic leader of the House of Representatives, Mr. Jeffrey, they're going to work late at night until Christmas in order to see what work they can get done. So the answer is, it was yesterday's news. It is now resolved. I can discuss the issues if you want, but in point of fact, it isn't worth any attention anymore. We must look at the future and see what happens.
You do not think, you have said nobody will remember the shutdown during the midterm elections. You do not think that this could become a messaging battle ahead of the midterm elections?
The battle will be over the substantive question of assistance for Medicare, for medical treatment, for doctor bills, and so on. That's what the argument was. As you know, there was no agreement made. They're going to have a vote on continuing payments for poorer people, basically, and that has to take place in the very near future, and so on. But other than that, as far as the shutdown, no, the medical issue is still with us, or the question of funding is still with us.
And by January, when this conversation comes up again, what leverage will the Democrats have? And would that be another round of battle? It's
unclear. The fact is that The funding bill, with the exception of three agencies which now have complete funding, but for most of the U.S. government, the funding issue is going to show up again at the end of January. That means that starting at that point, we can have the discussion again. There is a commitment to have a vote in the Senate first. Not clear, even if it passes the Senate, whether it'll come up in the House on this medical question or the funding of the poor people and so on, etc. Uh, there's a lot of speculation that because this is popular funding, people do need money to help cover their medical bills, that maybe the Democrats will win the vote in the Senate. Frankly, I don't think so, but it's going to be a close vote and it'll be a debate. That will take place before December 20th sometime. If it passes, then you have to see what happens in the House. So the issue remains in place. There could be another shutdown in January, at the end of January, because we'll be faced once again with the question of funding the many agencies that yet do not have money appropriated for their operation beyond the end of January. So that could come back. Frankly, I don't think we're going to have another shutdown. I think the debate's going to completely change by then. Mr. Trump does not like government assistance for medical assistance. He doesn't like paying people's premiums. What he wants to do is he wants to give money directly to the people or to the citizens to help pay for their medical care, get rid of Obamacare, get rid of all of these programs of intervention. I'm sure that will be on the table. It will be debated next year, and we see what happens. So even this particular debate might not even repeat itself, but it's unclear.
All right, so I want to sort of move to a different conversation now, which is on the Epstein files that were released. And for some of those mails, as has been shown, they mention the name of the president in some of those mails. And that has generated conversation because a lot of people have been waiting for, a lot of Americans have been waiting for those files to be released. I just want to get your reaction, whether you think there is anything there at all that indicts the president.
Okay, again, you'll get my general opinion is people get in trouble for covering up and for lying. Very rarely do get they in trouble for what they do. In this case, whatever he did was 20 years ago and so on. He was younger and so on. If he would have simply come up originally and said, quote, I may have been involved and so whatever it was, fine. But he chose not to do that. So the fact this information is going to come out, it won't be conclusive, I don't think, but it will definitely indicate that he was having sex out of marriage. How specific it will be, whether they were with underage people, I don't know, and so on, etc. I don't think enough to prosecute him. But the issue will be, in my view, will be, did he cover it up? Did he tell his attorney general not to issue correct information? That's what got Mr. Nixon in problems. For those of you who may remember, he was impeached and actually resigned and so on before he actually lost his office and so on, because he withheld and then he lied about information about a break-in in the Democratic headquarters, which they got information about the campaign. But he got in trouble not for violating
as usual, a political witch hunt. But he's not going to be on the ballot for midterms and for the next general election. But would this have an implication for the Republicans?
I think that the question's going to come down to be in the immediate midterm, and that's what I'm really focusing on, is do you want to continue giving the Republicans complete power in all three bodies? As you know, they have appointed five of the nine Supreme Court justices. So they have like control in the court system, not 100% because judges make their own decision. They control the Senate and the House. That's what up for re-election. It is true Trump is not there, but this is going to be mainly a vote on, do you want the Republicans or Mr. Trump to continue to control all three bodies of Congress? And in this case, all three bodies of the U.S. government. And in this case, I think if there is going to be reaction to the Epstein cover-up, he says, I don't think it will be what he might have done with people years ago. I don't think that will be the reason. But if he gets in trouble over the cover-up, then I think it could have an effect on the election.
Well, we're following through with all of these developments and we'll continue to report them. Thank you so much for your time. President of Manchester Trade, Stephen Landy.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate when I become 83, I appreciate when anybody cares about what I think. So I thank you personally for making me relevant at this old age. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.